This right here is the OBSBOT Tiny 2. It's one of the best webcams in the entire world at the time of recording this video. But you may be asking, how good is this tiny little webcam really? Well, in this video, we're going to pit the Tiny 2 up against 3 of the other most popular streaming cameras on the market today. And one of those streaming cameras happens to be a DSLR setup that is over 4 times more expensive than the Tiny 2. So we're going to see how it can fare against these other cameras. And also I'm going to, of course, unbox this and tell you more about the Tiny 2 in general, because this thing can do a ton of different things. So let's dive in and take a look at the Tiny 2 and compare it to some of the most popular cameras out there. Now, unboxing the OBSBOT Tiny 2 is actually a fantastic experience. OBSBOT is known at this point for packaging up their products very nicely, and after unboxing the OBSBOT Tail Air not that long ago in one of my previous videos, I was extremely impressed with the way that they ship this to you. So when you crack open the box, you see the instructions and a nice little cardboard sleeve, which is an awesome little touch that they put on their or put into their packaging, because it keeps all the instructions and the warranties and stuff all in one place. And then, of course, once you move that out of the way, you see the hard shell case for the Tiny 2. Now, they have kept this trend running through the Tiny 2 and through the OBSBOT Tail Airs that have just come out recently. But basically, you get a hard shell case that is custom fit for this webcam. Now, as soon as you open it up, you'll notice a couple different things. You see a USB Type-C cable in there. You see an awesome little stand that we're going to talk about here in a minute, because it's a fantastic webcam stand. And then you see the Tiny 2 itself. Now, this thing is incredibly small and compact. I was actually extremely shocked at how little the Tiny 2 is. But I guess because the name is Tiny 2, it makes a lot of sense that it's going to be a tiny webcam. But once you pull this thing out of the box, you can see just how small it really is. In fact, if I put this up next to one of the most popular streaming webcams around, the Logitech Brio, the Brio looks like a mammoth. It just looks huge compared to the Tiny 2. The Tiny 2 fits in the palm of your hand, and I don't know, it almost feels like a miniature, like it's not even real. It's just a crazy camera that they fit into a package so small. But anyway, now that we've got everything unboxed, you can see that the cable, actually the USB Type-C cable, also comes with an adapter. So it's a USB Type-C to USB Type-C cable, but there is a USB Type-C to USB Type-A adapter that you can put on the end in case you need to put this into a regular USB slot instead of a Type-C slot. So you do have that functionality. But once we get the Tiny 2 out of the package and we're looking at it here, the first thing you want to do is put the Tiny 2 on the stand. And they have this really cool feature where this stand is magnetic. In fact, if you take the Tiny 2, you just set it on top of this metal plate and it clicks into place. And now you have the Tiny 2 on a stand that can fit on top of your computer monitor. Very nice and easy. And it is super flexible. It moves around in every different direction you need. In fact, you can actually take this stand and tilt this metal part all the way forward, and you can actually have the Tiny 2 facing completely down towards your desk. So if you need like a top-down desktop shot or something like that, this will go all the way forward and allow the Tiny 2 to be a top-down camera, which is an amazing feature. It's so simple, and yet it's so needed, especially if you're a content creator or you're showing something off, or you're, even working on like a homework assignment or something like that, and you need to show your work. I mean, it's a great stand, and it's very flexible. I literally almost dropped it, but I caught it. This is an absolute great stand. I really love this thing and the way that they've designed it. It's nice, compact, it's sleek, it works really well. And because the OBSBOT has this magnetic base on it, it sticks right to the top of this thing. That's one of the things I absolutely love about this, is that it sticks to the top of this metal plate, and it is just it's solid. It's not going anywhere. You can literally tilt this thing over to the side and it's not going to come off of there. Even with shaking it a little bit, which I don't recommend. So well done on the stand, OBSBOT. Really love the way that this thing mounts to your monitor. Now, you'll notice during this unboxing process that I also had the screen protector on the lens, but when we peel that thing off, you see a crystal clear lens on the front of this thing with a camera in there that actually has a much larger sensor than most webcams. This is actually one of the largest sensors, if not the largest sensor of any webcam on the market today. In fact, they boast on their website that this is an ultra large 1/1.5 inch CMOS sensor. And so this thing does extremely good in low light, but also just the image clarity and everything else is on another level, especially when you consider that this is a webcam. It does not look like a webcam. Now, there are all kinds of features that the OBSBOT Tiny 2 comes with. One of the big ones being this gimbal that you can see right here. And this gimbal is actually a multi-axis gimbal here, and basically allows you to control the pan, tilt, and zoom of this camera. I'm actually controlling it right now. I can point this thing in any direction, and I can zoom it in and out, and I'm actually using my Elgato Stream Deck to do this. So to demonstrate this, here's my Stream Deck right here. I've set up using their wonderful program, their app, or their software that they have that you can download for free with this thing. They've got a wonderful Stream Deck plugin as well that you can use, and this will allow you to set up buttons that controls your OBSBOT tail air. And now this is not moving the correct way until I tilt it up, because this thing actually adjusts. It actually adjusts for the tilt of the camera. So if you turn this upside down, it's going to adjust, and it's going to flip the image around. So if I'm holding this straight up, then I can move this thing right or left. There we go. And then you can see I can point this thing straight up, point it down. It allows you to control the entire thing. And you can have preset buttons over here, where if I press number 1, it's going to move to a preset position. Number 2, it's going to move to another preset position. Number 3, it's going to move again. You can even have it auto zoom in and out. It's just an incredible device. This thing is absolutely amazing. And because you can pair it with a Stream Deck, then if you're streaming or gaming or doing something, making content, and you need to make adjustments on the fly, you just pull up your Stream Deck and use that. You can even zoom it in and out, or you can even have a button set up to press and it will turn the Tiny 2 off completely. And notice that when I turn the Tiny 2 off, it points down at itself, meaning that it's completely private. In fact, you can tell if this thing is ever on, because if it is, it's going to be looking at you. So if you want the most secure, privacy safe webcam there is, just get the OBSBOT Tiny 2, because it literally will point in a direction where it can't see anything. So anyway, a wonderful webcam with tons of features. It even has AI auto tracking, so it can track me. It can track my my movements. I can have it track my face or my body or my hand, or whatever you need it to track, it can do. It's very smart. It can even track you and zoom in and out automatically as it's tracking you. So you have a little bit of everything. You can even put those features as buttons on your Stream Deck, so that you can activate them extremely quickly. In fact, if I want it to auto track me, I can just press this button right here, and it's going to auto track me. And you can see I pressed it, and the light on this turned blue. And look, see how the camera, no matter where I put it, is going to stay on me. So if I tilt it up, it's going to be looking at me. If I tilt it down, it's still looking at me. This thing will stick to you like glue unless you get out of the frame or something like that. So anyway, it's a fantastic webcam. I can't say it enough. So it has a ton of functionality. It even has a software program that you can attach the OBSBOT Tiny 2 to, as well as some of their other cameras, and it gives you complete control over your human tracking options, the AI modes. You can have preset positions. You can even grab this and move the camera around just right here on your screen. You can adjust the zoom, wide, medium, or narrow field of view. It's got image settings, so you can do all of your exposure and ISO, white balance, your image contrast and saturation, and all that sort of thing. It's got a bunch of beauty features, so if you're into having different looks on you live while you're using this webcam, or you're on a conference call and you just want to have some fun, you can change all of that. And then it's got a bunch of other features. You can even hand gesture, different zoom and tracking you can do with hand gestures here. You can even do voice activated commands. So for instance, if I say something like track me, the camera is now tracking me. Look at that. If I turn this thing around, it's still going to be looking at me. So you've got a bunch of different voice control features here, even zooms and how much it zooms by, that sort of thing. You can even tell it which position you want it to go to. And then of course audio settings, image flip, pan, tilt, and zoom. I mean, a bunch of different options here. So it's a great piece of software, and it works really well also Haven't had any issues with this software as far as, controlling the camera itself. So really, really cool. And that's just a brief overview of some of the features that make this webcam one of the best webcams in the world. But how does it compare to other cameras, some of the most popular cameras in the streaming space and content creation space? So let's go ahead and dive over, and we're going to bring in 4 different images, and it's basically going to be the Tiny 2 versus a Logitech Brio, a Logitech C922, and a Sony a6400 with a 16mm 1.4 aperture lens. Okay, so we're comparing it to a spectrum of some of the most popular Logitech cameras, because they are some of the most popular ones out there, as well as a DSLR camera, which is one of the most popular DSLRs used for live streaming. So we have 3 webcams and a DSLR in the mix here, and I'm going to be looking at all of them so that you can't really tell which one my eyes are looking at, and it's going to be basically based on the video quality itself. So I'm going to pop up numbers on each one of these cameras, and I want you to remember or write down which number. You can even put the number in the comment section of which camera you think is the OBSBOT Tiny 2. So go ahead and look at the video quality right now, put the number down in the comments or write it down on a piece of paper. And then what we're going to do is we are going to compare that with all of these cameras at full screen. We're going to go ahead and rotate through each one of these cameras in order, starting with number 1 and go all the way through to number 4. And then, select your final answer, and I will reveal to you which camera is which. Okay, so here's camera number 1. This is full screen. Basically, I just want to give you a chance to look at this when it's blown up. Each one of these cameras is going to look a little bit different at the full screen size. So when they're broken down into fourths like they were, it's a little bit harder to tell. But now that we're doing the full screen size, it should be a little bit easier to determine which ones are which. Okay, here's camera number 2, and one of the things that you'll notice as we go through each one of these camera angles is that the field of view is going to be a little bit different, and so pay attention to that as well. That may be a dead giveaway as to which camera is which if you know anything about these cameras, but pay attention to the field of view, and also understand that I can't put all of these cameras in the exact same spot. So you are going to notice slight variations in the angles themselves, and that's just because every camera is stacked up as close together as I could get them, but are not going to be perfectly in line. Okay, and here's camera number 3. And hopefully at this point you've started to make some notes as to which camera you think is which, and looked at the video quality. Also, another thing you'll notice is that the color is slightly different between each one of these cameras, as well as the contrast. Now what I've done is I've tried to make each camera as close to one another as possible. So I've gone into their softwares, I've tweaked their settings, I've tweaked the color balance and the contrast and the saturation to be as close as possible. But while doing that, each one is still going to have a slightly different look. And so part of that is going to be the quality and resolution. Part of that's going to be just the way that the sensors are, but something to take into consideration. All right, and here's camera number 4. And now that they're blown up to a big size like this, you're probably going to be a little bit, it's probably going to be a little bit easier to tell which one is which, because there are certain things that you may have noticed in this process. So I hope that you were paying attention to some of the little details that would be the giveaway, as far as which one is maybe the OBSBOT Tiny 2 and which one is maybe the DSLR. That would help you narrow it down. And then of course with the Logitech C922 and the Brio, it's really going to be, there's one dead giveaway that if you know about those 2 cameras, you probably got it right off the bat. So leave a comment in the comment section of this video and tell me what your order is, what camera you think is what. Put a number 1 next to whichever camera you think number 1 is, and then put the name of the camera and so on. I'm really curious to see how many of you guys can get all 4 of them right. There may be some surprises in there. I know that when comparing a couple of these cameras, there are some things that would throw me off the scent a little bit if I didn't already know which one was which. So anyway, leave a comment, let me know what you think, guys, and then we'll see if you get it right. Okay, so now that we are back to all 4 cameras at the same time, I'm going to go ahead and reveal which camera is which. So I'm going to go ahead and pop up right now the names of each of the cameras with the number associated with that camera. And as you can see, the OBSBOT Tiny 2 is in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen right here. And right next to it, to its right on the bottom of the screen, is the Sony a6400. So you can actually see side by side the Tiny 2 and a DSLR camera. Now, between all of these cameras, obviously the DSLR is going to be the best quality because it has a dedicated lens. It's a much more expensive camera. The autofocus is also better. In fact, that's one thing that you may notice about these is that when I hold up, for instance, this championship belt right here, the autofocus on the webcams, the Brio and the C922, it's okay, but it's not really snappy. But notice the bottom two video feeds, okay? Whenever I hold this belt up, look how quickly those two autofocus, okay? The Brio, I've had some trouble getting the Brio to autofocus. I think it has something to do with the fact that I'm running the C922 and the Brio at the same time through the Logitech G Hub software, but the Brio just does not want to focus at all. And I think that's a software issue. I haven't had that problem before, but I do have autofocus turned on, and it's just not really autofocusing. The Logitech C922 is autofocusing, but it takes it a minute. Look at the top right-hand corner of the screen. Watch that autofocus. It's not bad, but it takes it a minute. Now, if you look at the bottom two cameras again, the Sony a6400 and the OBSBOT Tiny 2, look how quick they both autofocus. It just snaps right to the belt, full clarity and detail. And honestly, those two cameras, when you hold something up to the camera, they look extremely similar. The OBSBOT Tiny 2 and a DSLR camera are going head to head. Okay, this is a webcam versus a DSLR, and as far as their focusing capability and even the color accuracy, there's not as much glare as there is on the Logitech cameras at the top there. I mean, it just really does a good job. The Tiny 2 is fantastic autofocus, which part of that is the fact that it's got a bigger sensor and it's got a quicker autofocus, like a full pixel autofocus system. You can read more about that if you choose to pick one of these up on their website. But the autofocus on the Tiny 2 is very impressive, and it's going up against a Sony a6400 and their autofocus system, which is amazing. Okay, so I'm just gonna hold this up again. Boom, autofocus. They both unfocus pretty quickly. They both focus. I don't even know if I know which one. It's hard to tell. I think the Sony a6400 is a little closer. It's just a hair quicker, but my goodness, are they both, I mean, it's just neck and neck on that. So anyway, fantastic autofocus for the Tiny 2. And I will tell you, between all four of these cameras, besides the Sony a6400, which again is a much more expensive camera. In fact, Tiny 2 is a $329 camera at the time of the recording of this video. It is going up against a $1,300 Sony a6400 with the Sigma 1.4 aperture 16mm art lens that they have, or I guess contemporary lens, whatever their classification is. It's a very nice setup. It's a $370 lens, and it's a $900 camera body. And so if the Tiny 2 can go up against a $1,300 camera as far as autofocus and even like consistent color and just the way that it looks, the clarity, that's really impressive. And that's not even talking about all the features of the Tiny 2 as far as the PTZ functionality and the voice activation, the hand gestures. I mean, it's got an entire suite of features that, although the a6400 can do some things better when it's out in the field, when you're using it in a webcam setting like this, the Tiny 2 is going to have a lot more flexibility, especially if you're a live streamer or you're trying to do, talking head video sitting down at your desk or whatever it may be. The Tiny 2 is just a really compelling option, especially at the price point that it comes in at. Another thing I want to mention before we leave this 4-camera setup scene here is that if you'll notice, the Logitech Brio in the top left-hand corner up here, this camera right here has a bigger field of view. And that was one of the dead giveaways when you were looking at these cameras, if you were paying attention. It's got a much wider field of view. It's got a 90-degree field of view, which is massive. And it allows you to see, like, from my water bottle here all the way over to the other side of my room, past these, these LED panels back here. It's got a huge field of view. The Tiny 2, the Sony a6400, and the Logitech C922 down here all have a very similar field of view. If you can see, it cuts off right here at the edge of the LED lights, and then it goes all the way to about where my water bottle is. In fact, the Tiny 2 and the C922 can't see the water bottle, but the Sony a6400 can. Part of that has to do with just the angle of the cameras, but also I think that the Tiny 2 and the C922 have a slightly smaller field of view, but they're all very close. The Logitech Brio is the only one that has a 90-degree field of view. So if you need a very wide angle lens on a webcam, the Brio beats all of these other webcams as far as the field of view. However, the Tiny 2 sitting on top of my computer is the perfect, in my opinion, it's the perfect focal length. Just like my Sony a6400 is. I really like this. It's not too wide, but it's also not too narrow. And this is actually in 4K. So this camera, once you put it in the 4K mode, it gives you that full amount of the frame that they have available. And it does a fantastic job. Also, my room here is very dimly lit. The entire room itself is dark, other than my studio light that I have with a softbox right up above these cameras shining down on my face, and then I have a little bit of a fill light over here to the left and a rim light up above my head, which is just giving a little glow on the top of my head there. So very little light in this room, but you can see that the color reproduction of the background, and I mean even the fact that you can see what's on the shelf back here in all of these webcams is very impressive, especially with how little light is going back there. They're doing a great job. So they're all great options, but the Tiny 2, it's really taken it up a notch, and it's hard to ignore. If you're looking for what I would consider probably one of the, if not the best webcam on the market right now, the OBSBOT Tiny 2 is kind of the top of the line. So guys, let me know in the comments what you think about the OBSBOT Tiny 2 and how it compared to these other cameras. I picked some of the most popular cameras streamers use today. The Logitech C920 and C922 is kind of the, I don't know, standard webcam that everybody has started with or had at some point. And then from there, the Logitech Brio has become a very popular option. And then the Sony a6400 is actually a really popular option. That, as well as the a6000, the a5100, you know, everything in that Sony line with the APS-C style sensors. People have been using these cameras a lot into a capture card. And then of course you've got the Tiny 2 and PTZ cameras like that are really a notch above. And you know, hopefully this is giving you a really well-rounded perspective of all the different camera options, and you can make a decision based on what's going to be best for you. But if you are looking for the top end webcam, if you're looking for one that can do a lot more, if you're looking for one that can move around and has all these different features and functionality and a great program that comes with it, the Tiny 2 is going to be hard to beat, you guys. If you're interested in getting the OBSBOT Tiny 2, I've got a link down in the description of this video that will help out the channel because this is an affiliate link, but also I've got a code down there. If you use my code EagleGarrett, you'll get a little bit of a discount in picking up a Tiny 2 today. So feel free to do that, and I would greatly appreciate it if you are going to get one. If you use my link, it would help out the channel immensely, and so thank you so very much if you choose to do that. So let me know in the comments what you think about the OBSBOT Tiny 2 in comparison with these other cameras, and which one you're going to go with or you would go with if you were to acquire one today. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, hit the notification bell. It would help us out greatly. We would really appreciate it. Also, you can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/EagleGarrett if you want to come hang out while I'm live. I'm live over there every week. So if you got any questions about these cameras, or you want to see the OBSBOT Tiny 2 in action, because I do use it while I'm live streaming, then come on over and let me know you want to see the Tiny 2, and I'll play a cool little animation that I've set up. You can also find all of my social media links down in the description of this video, as well as a link to our Discord server at discord.gg/flock if you would like to join our community of amazing content creators, streamers, gamers. So come and hang out with us over there as well. So with all of that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Until the next video, as always, rock on, peace out, God bless, and last but not least, come on, bro. Oh! Good job, dude. Yo, that arrow, that explosive arrow was too clutch, dude. Like it literally flew right over the water fountain. Bing!